If only you knew how bad things really were. Welcome, everybody, to the third episode of PC Sherpa. If you didn't know, this series is where I go one-on-one with one of you to discuss your PC issues or Tarkov performance issues, anything like that. Due to comments I've been receiving about trying to help a more lower-end system, I got somebody who had one. We got a 970 with a R5 2600X. This was a challenge, to say the least, but there were some things that we did to improve his performance, which we'll discuss as the video goes on. If you'd like to participate in this, please do note that we have the survey down below that you can fill out to get a chance to be pulled for these videos, along with PC Sherpa Live, which I do every single Sunday at 1:30 p.m. CST for about 3 hours or so. If you want to get pulled then, I'll just play it from the audience and we can talk live on stream. Besides that, the Discord is also a wonderful way to go get help. We have a new help forum there where you can go and post about your specific issue in your own separate channels. We can go and help you one-on-one via that channel to assist you in whatever issues that you may be having with the game. Yeah, with all that, if you enjoy this content, make sure to hit the usual buttons, liking, subscribing. You've heard it 1,000 times before. And yeah, let's get straight to it. So your specs, you got, to recap, for everybody at home, you had a 970, and that's a 6 gigabyte card, right? Okay, we can always check that. And then you had a 2700X, 2600X, okay, and 16 gigs of RAM, right?
16 gigs, yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't know the speed of it, like the megahertz of it.
Okay, that's fine. You can see that in the task manager too, so you can see right there. Whoa. Whoa. Wait.
Now see, okay.
Wait. That is not right. Unless it's displaying half of what the speed actually is, because 2400 megahertz would make a lot more sense.
Right.
But you normally just see this, like, it normally doesn't split it in half there. It normally just says the speed and doesn't split it. But great. We'll get there when we get there, I guess. Go to the GPU real quick. We'll make sure that has 6 gigs of VRAM. Yeah, dedicated GPU memory 4. Okay. Oh, we got a challenge.
We got
a challenge, baby. Okay. All right. And then, yeah, the 2600X, got to check that. But in there, too, you can see, if you right-click on that graph, go to Change Graph 2, and then Logical Processors. And now you can see thread by thread. This can be inaccurate sometimes. I like to use MSI Afterburner for it more instead. But like, this can show you if you're getting single core bottlenecked, which I probably don't think you are. I think you're just getting bottlenecked. But we'll
yeah, we're gonna, general bottleneck.
Yeah, we call this drowning where I'm from. Okay. Let's go to the settings. Let's see what we got there. Oh, okay. All right. I got one thing straight off the bat. You don't use automatic RAM cleaner.
I don't.
I would highly recommend using that.
Okay.
Because that's not just because it's 1200 megahertz RAM. It's probably actually, in reality, it's probably at 2400. I think it's just displaying it incorrectly. But with 4 gigabytes of VRAM as well, I think your VRAM is going to be spilling over sometimes. And with that pressure on top of the actual RAM usage, I think it'll be very beneficial to have that, because auto RAM cleaner does also reduce the amount of RAM you're using when you get into a raid. Like, the number actually does still like go down when you compare it, the starting number. So that's important too.
That still only triggers when you pause the game, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, only use physical cores is fine for now, but if you're disabling hyperthreading and process lasso, then I'd recommend using that instead over only use physical cores. We've talked about that though. Let's see the graphics settings. Let's see what you're running. Oh. Oh, this is gonna be juicy. Okay. We're gonna break this down. So you got 4 gigabytes of VRAM.
Yes.
And because of that, I hate to say this, but I would run it low textures, 100%. Right. As far as I know of, Streets of Tarkov lower texture resolution mode doesn't do anything else besides lower the texture resolution to 1 below your current texture quality setting. And since you're already at low, there's no low. So I don't think it will do anything. So everything else here should be fine. Just scroll down. We'll change the rest when we get into game. I just want to make sure that if there's anything we should change beforehand, like texture quality, we'll get that out of the way. That is all okay. We'll change that when we get in the game. We'll discuss that. We'll see where you're at. Let's get you in a raid first, though, to discuss stuff. If customs is your map, let's do customs, and we'll test on there. There are other maps that are obviously way more intensive than that. So I'm assuming probably you'll be more GPU bound when we're testing in offline, but that's okay because we'll walk through it and then we'll see where you're at when we look online later on. Now, when you hit escape, just so you know, it will stutter briefly. That's the automatic RAM cleaner doing its thing. So now that we're in here, first thing that I do is I'd go to your settings and we're going to clean some stuff up. So go to graphics. I'll address the stuff above in a moment. We're going to get you off that resampling gaming, because resampling, at least in my opinion, is, if you have to run lower than 1080p, I would go for FSR 1.0 over resampling any day of the week. Switch from resampling, so switch that back to 1, and then, oh my god, you don't have access to FSR 1.0. Oh, because you don't have TAA. Okay, so for now, without resampling, just go back in the game real quick.
Holy, okay.
Well, you're like, oh my god, I can see. Holy shit.
Shrubs aren't like a blur anymore.
Yeah. So you're at like roughly 75, and just stay looking right this way so we can keep the FPS stable, because there's no bots, so it shouldn't vary as much unless the weather changes. So roughly 76 now. And since we don't know if you're in a CPU or GPU bound scenario in this scenario yet, let's switch it. Go back to your settings, and then we'll switch on TAA, and then switch on FSR 1.0 ultra quality, and save.
I will say it's kind of like, it's a little blurrier than what we just had it at.
Yep.
But I don't actually mind it. Okay.
Because what this is doing, instead of resampling where it just basically, it's a lower resolution that just stretches that resolution to your monitor. Then instead of doing that by a setting, this is AMD's first attempt at a upscaling solution. So you can think of it like DLSS, but without any of the AI magic. It's just doing all the upscaling over a single frame. Okay. So it's attempting to improve the image quality by taking a low resolution and then sort of like upscale it without using any data from any other frame. So it's not using like the motion of objects and pixels, but it is better than just having it at raw resampling. I'm sure you can tell just by the
yeah, because it's not as jagged.
Yeah. Then too, this won't help on like more CPU intensive maps or if you're CPU bound. But you could always try instead to set FSR 2.2 instead of 1.0 to quality, and 2.2 is the temporal version, and it's supposedly a higher quality. So you just switch FSR 1.0 off, and then switch FSR 2.2 to quality, and then save it.
Is that better?
FSR 2.2?
Yeah.
FSR 2.2 is rendering, at least at quality, at a lower internal resolution, I believe, but it does a better job reconstructing the image, personal preference wise. Whatever you prefer is what you should run. Now, off the top of my head, from when I was looking at those numbers, you were getting slightly more with FSR 1.0.
Yeah, it was like 84.
Yeah,
85.
but that was if you were GPU bound. If you're CPU bound, then this wouldn't make a difference. So if you were fine with FSR 1.0 ultra quality instead of this, you could totally rock that instead. Okay. You're also at 1080p, so the lower you go with the quality of the upscale, the lower the internal resolution it's rendering at before upscaling, and so it's going to look worse. Okay. And that's where the performance benefit comes from. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you ever dial those back. Besides that, I would definitely recommend anisotropic filtering per texture for clarity's sake on textures. It'll just look better. That's just a nice quality of life thing too. It doesn't really weigh down performance too heavily from what I saw for the most part, but it does look to be doing that in your case. Yeah. Go ahead and set it back to off. Yeah, you're probably GPU bound then. Oh, those, and that's the lighter version of anisotropic filtering too. This is where the challenge comes in, guys. This is where the real challenge comes in. But the good thing is the low texture quality should, I mean, you're still going to get stutters probably from the VRAM overflowing. I think at this point it's pretty safe to say that that's really hard to avoid unless you were like, if you used even more like aggressive upscaling, like if you used FSR 1.0 at quality or even like if you used balance, but that's when it starts to really look like really bad.
Okay.
But that's the lower internal resolution. It'll help your VRAM usage as well. So in theory, that would reduce the stuttering that you were feeling. But at that point, it's like it's hard to play. So I'm trying to think of like a good mix to where it's like it'll look all right and also play all right. Like I don't want it to be too much of either. Okay, so we got, let me think, we got FSR. We changed that. Let me do something else for you too. I know this is gonna hurt how your visuals look, but if you're ever GPU bound, this will help you as well. In your PostFX, you can keep all the ones you've set except clarity and adaptive sharpen. Those at any setting besides 0, yeah, they will impact performance when you're GPU bound, and it's very hard to set.
What happens when you go into negative?
I don't know why that's a thing. I'm pretty sure it still decreases your performance, but see, there we go. We jumped up to 80 right there. That's not bad. Everything else shouldn't have an effect at all. Brightness, saturation, colorfulness, luma sharpen.
Is low latency still bugged?
No. So you can set that to on. You can set that to on, because what that essentially does is it's syncing up the work that your CPU and GPU does, so that you don't have, like, for example, if you were GPU bound, you don't have newer frames sitting in the render queue. Like, because, you know, your CPU could say, do all the logic for a frame and have that prepped for the GPU, and it's a newer frame, but the GPU is still working on a frame before that. Reflex sort of syncs that all up so that, like, the CPU's held on a timer and said, hey, wait this amount of time, and then start doing your work, so that the second you're done, the frame goes straight to the GPU and then process it and then gets sent. And generally, that has very little impact on performance. It's measurable, but it's not the latency reduction that you get from it is supposed to counteract the performance hit, if there is any that is measurable. Besides that, I'll mention this because I know that I'm going to get somebody who writes about it in the comments. Fullscreen is technically the best way to run. It's the least amount of latency. However, I know it can have some issues with capturing stuff, and it's a pain to tab out. So at the end of the day, run it to what you want. There should not be any performance impact, just latency hit. And of course, you can't have like super true ultra exclusive full screen unless you disable full screen optimizations in the properties thing. You probably heard of that. That whole thing too. I'm debating. I was like, do we want to set anisotropic filtering back to per texture? You could try it and see what the performance looks like.
Does that? I remember you saying it, but I don't remember what the answer was. Does that affect PMCs at range?
Anisotropic filtering?
Yeah.
It shouldn't. It just affects how textures look at angles that are not directly at you. It's not gonna, like, if you see a PMC, it's not introducing any additional blur, like, or just smudging to the whole screen. It's just blur on textures in particular when you're not looking at them. I'm debating. You did have you mentioned before we started recording too that you had like some stuff that was going on in the background that you want to take a look at.
Yes.
Or peek at
my launchers.
Oh, there they are. Razer, Synapse, Steam. Whenever you're playing, I'd recommend closing out of most of these. It's like I'd close out of, like, say, Steam and Riot Client. It's just shutting down Steam. Don't worry. The EA app, yeah, that's fine to close too. And it's those really, like, quitting out of those things, it will only help if you're in a CPU bound scenario and those things are directly like putting pressure on where your CPU is bound up at. But ensuring those aren't in the background doing something, I mean, it doesn't hurt, you know. And for apps that you don't feel like closing, that's when having stuff like Process Lasso is nice, you know, because then, like, for example, if you want to keep Razer Synapse open, and you want to keep whatever the hell that other squiggly worm thing is in the bottom right open, if you don't open those
I don't know what this is.
Oh, you want me to Google it? Hold on. Break, we're Googling it.
A few minutes later.
But yeah, that stuff there, you could be like, okay, just to try and make sure this doesn't interfere as much, I'll try to move those to like a single core, or just try to push them away so they're not, or also to put them at lower priorities to make sure they're not interfering with the game as much. Because of your situation, I do actually want to see if we can get into a live raid. If we just like scab in somewhere, I do want to see what your bottleneck's like. But before we do that, I do want to see if we can set up MSI Afterburner, and also talk about, because you do have a couple overlays. If you don't mind disabling those can be a little bit of a performance hog as well.
Some overlays.
Yes, like you got Discord overlay, you had Nvidia Geforce overlay. So you right click on that, on Nvidia settings, and then Geforce experience. Thank God they're getting rid of this app and they're merging control panel in it into a new app. And then you click on the cog, or and then you click on in-game overlay.
Oh, right here. Okay.
No, above it. Yeah, right there. Yep. And then just uncheck. Yep. Okay. And then that disables that in-game overlay, so that won't be over it. Since you don't use the capture or anything from it, you don't need it there in the first place.
I accidentally opened this.
That's disabled. If you don't use Discord overlay, you could get rid of that too.
I don't use that. And
then you go to the game overlay. There we go. Activity settings. Had to think for a second. Then you just boop, done.
Bing, bada, boom.
And that's all good. Yep. Hop back in Tarkov.
Whoa.
Oh my god. Oh. I didn't expect that.
Okay.
So normally, normally with those tweaks, it's not really something you see because they don't normally have a constant effect. But maybe those overlays were a bit more heavy than I was anticipating. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
I like that.
Yeah. And then what I want to do, now that all that's disabled, I know you're still screen sharing, which is going to be intense. But I do want to just see with MSI Afterburner, when we get that set up, I just want to see like what your bottleneck's at when you're in raid, just to get a better idea of what you should be tweaking. And it changes from map to map as well, and what's happening on the map. But generally, I'm thinking the 970 is probably holding you back most of the time. Even though the 2600 isn't that powerful either, I think the 970 is probably bottlenecking most of the time. We're gonna see that. We're gonna figure that out. It is at this point that we went and set up MSI Afterburner. Took a little while, so I'm cutting that part out just so we can get to the results. But at some point, I'll probably make a video talking about how to set up MSI Afterburner, along with some other benchmarking tools that you guys will be able to use to figure out your bottlenecks. There's already a ton of videos out on them though, so we'll see when that comes out. A good mix, because I want to see if we can get you onto like more maps. Like I want to see if we can get it so that you'd be able to play more maps. Streets is obviously going to be rough. So why don't we try something that's still notoriously intensive? Let's see if we can look at Lighthouse. Go to Lighthouse at night. Should be fairly dead because most people are going to go towards the road camp. So if you're just not at the road camp, you should be chilling. Then go for it. Whoa, why is your GPU's running at 99% in the loading screen? What? That's not good. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see what happens. Spoiler alert. The CPU is a little cooking a little bit, but we'll see how it goes when you load in. GPU's fine though. GPU thermals are still fine. Oh my god, it's dying. He's dead. Oh.
We got resurrected a little bit.
Yep. Uh-oh.
It's never been this bad. Okay, we hear things.
Yep. We're about to see things. Oh, we're seeing. It's gonna take a second to stabilize. Give it a second. Hey. Whoa.
Okay.
A little bit jumpy. Now, real quick, now that you just got into the raid, just quickly tap escape. And let's clear that out too. Go back in, yeah. and the RAM allocation will slowly decrease. So you're actually CPU bound, right? Or wow, that voice crack, Jesus. You're actually CPU bound. Come on, CPU bound. I can't even say it right now. That is something that you're CPU bound right now. There is some stuttering. I'm assuming that is just the nature of the beast right now. But it might be from the CPU getting increased load and freaking out. VRAM's sitting pretty steady right there. I don't know why it's not moving, because normally you'd be able to see it move. Go ahead and just like look around, just start walking around. It's gonna look like shit on our end, but go for it. Not gonna lie, this is way better than I thought it was going to be. And see what FSR is doing for you right now is it's ensuring that you're not in a GPU bound scenario, so you're not hitting that 100% on that. Dude, I mean, there's not much going on right now in Raid, obviously. Does the stutter happen when you shoot your gun, by the way? Ooh.
It was there a little bit.
Try it again. Okay, it was just the first shot.
This is probably, honestly, like, the best feeling lighthouse raid I've had in all my wipes.
Now keep in mind, it's in the middle of a raid, and there's probably less PMCs, but there is active gunshots going on right now.
Yeah.
That is solid. So now what I want to see real quick, if you don't mind, if you could like find like a place to hide in like a shack or something over there, just to make sure somebody doesn't run up on you unexpected. I want to see on MSI Afterburner, if you tab out and go back to that, in there you can click on and see the little monitor with like the heartbeat monitor on it, like the pulse. Yeah. So in there, in that screen, but that shows you saw like all the boxes in the cog menu that were checked, right? Just had like the black check mark. It shows you the numbers from all of those. So you can scroll through actually, and eventually you'll find each individual thread's usage on your CPU, and you'll be able to see if any given thread is maxing out, or about the halfway point right now is where the raid started. Either way, it's looking like so far not any single thread is maxing out, even though some are getting close.
Yeah.
So it's probably an issue, a memory pressure issue. That performance is surprising, even though there's still some stuttering. It's going to be really hard to avoid that. But yeah, once you're in, now you're in raid and you can see that you were CPU bottlenecked, at least in this scenario. Then if you wanted to enable anisotropic filtering, like I said, for that little bit of clarity on the textures, make it look a little bit nicer, you could at per texture. And it should not impact your frame rate.
Yeah, it's not much of a jump at all, actually. Or I guess a decrease at all.
Yeah, it shouldn't move, because that just puts more texture, more pressure on your GPU. But if you're ever GPU bound, then it will restrict your max performance.
Okay.
Because like I bet right now, you might even be able to get away with just disabling FSR 1.0 entirely and running it native. But then you probably get GPU bound then on occasion.
Should I try it?
You could, yeah.
Okay.
I'd recommend at that point probably disabling anisotropic filtering then altogether, though. Give you that little bit extra headroom. So yeah, just hit off on that.
No.
And then turn that off too. Yep. And then go for it. Yeah. Right in the brink there. I'm just waiting for that round of M62 to come in and just ruin everything. Should look a little bit more grainy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can see your GPU usage went down by a considerable margin. So that's making sure you're never hitting that bottleneck. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm trying to commentate, but like I'm a little speechless right now. Like that's pretty awesome. And then too, whenever you have like, if you're like, man, my RAM, like I'm having an issue with my RAM hitting near max, you press escape and it's done. If you remember at the beginning of the raid, you were at like 13.5 gigabytes and you hit that, and then you're at 9.8, 9.9.
Yeah.
Probably want to start running to extract, honestly. And with that, PStones is able to play Lighthouse. Not perfectly, but it's at least a little bit better than when he started. If you guys like this video, make sure to hit the usual buttons, and do keep in mind I'll be streaming the day after this goes live, Friday at 6:30 p.m. CST, and then I'll have my PC Sherpa live thing as well, going on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. CST. I appreciate all the support on the videos recently. It's been really awesome to have you all here and to be talking with you guys and learning more from you guys. It's been awesome. But yeah, I have to get going as I've been spending way too much time working on this video, and I appreciate your support. For now, It's Clem, clocking out. Later.